Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to another Blether. Please don't jump off screen because Kat's not here and it's only myself. Kat's got some things that she has to take care of personally, so it's just myself and our guest tonight. So good evening to you all. Thank you very much. Apologies for missing last week with you guys kind of unexpectedly, but we are back and the show goes on. Great to have you all along. We've got Dutch Jura, Pete Head, Tony Nelson, recognising a lot of names. Great to see you guys are back watching the Blether with great guests tonight to talk all things whiskey with. Meow to you, Sugar Kitty, the only cat in the room tonight. Cheers to you. So, just before, I'll tell you what's in my glass tonight. I have got 2007 Mortlach bottled by Hunter Laing. I want to say 24 it was bottled. It's at least a year and a half ago anyway. And you ever have that moment when you finish a bottle and you put it down and you think, I'll pick that up and read some details on it later, and you've no idea where you've put the bottle. It's not too much of a dilemma. Google's great for these things, but I don't need Google because I had a chat with Paul beforehand and he reminded me, yeah, it is indeed a 14-year-old that they launched. And apparently still some of it left, but he's getting rid of that quite soon, he hopes. So red wine cask finish. Who doesn't love a Mortlach from an independent bottling range? They're just, it's one of those spirits that we long to grab. And I'm certainly enjoying this one. So let me know what's in your glass tonight. Callum is in. He's really looking forward to hearing from the legend Paul about all things Ardnahoe. Absolutely. Ardnahoe, Hunter Laing, the world. As long as it's not politics or war or religion, we will try and put it right tonight. Feel free, fire in your questions, ask us everything you like, and let us know what is in your glass as well, because always good to know what people are joining in with at home. Vicky Ellett is saying hello, everybody. And Paul, there's a wee hello to you as well for when you come on. Sugar Kit is in New Jersey, hot afternoon with a beer. I'm not going to try and pronounce it. Franziskaner Weissbier for you. Apologies for the murder of that. Who else have we got? We've got Callum is asking if we can speak about football. We'll see. We'll see where the chat goes. We don't have Kat's lack of enthusiasm or lack of knowledge about whiskey. So hopefully, yes, we can do that. But without further ado, I think we will we'll get Paul on, because you're not here to listen to me rabble on. You're here to listen to me chat to our good friend and guest, Paul Main, and he comes.
Evening, Mike. Evening, everyone. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I hope you're enjoying that. Mortlach, I completely agree with you. If Mortlach, especially independently bottled, is always sticks out. So enjoy your dram, Mike.
Certainly am. Great we drop. What do you think it is about Mortlach then? Why do we all love it?
Well, listen, the worm tubs, given that Ardnahoe's got the worm tubs and we speak so much about them and get asked so much about them, I think that's part of it, albeit I think the flavour you get in Mortlach for the worm tubs is different from you get from other distilleries. You know, some distilleries, it makes it a kind of lighter, more floral, sweety dram, and obviously Mortlach, it seems to make it heavier and more a different type of character. But it's just, we can say what you want about Diageo, they know how to make good whiskies, and Mortlach's a cracking example of that.
It's also got this kind of mythical vibe about it, doesn't it? With the kind of really complex 2.19 times distilled or whatever.
Yeah. I've had that explained to me about 5 times, and I remember it for about 5 minutes, and then it completely confuses me again. So, albeit I had explained to me recently for Springbank being 2.5 distilled, and it made more sense to me. So fair play to Andrew at Springbank, who seemed to make a really complicated thing make sense to me eventually.
Good. Yeah, it is. I mean, I've been up close to Springbank, 2017 school or academy there, and yeah, it does help being on site and having a look and seeing where it goes. But trying to read about it or whatever, it's intense stuff. But I guess at the end of the day, the product's good, and that's what we all care about.
Correct.
And you've picked a fantastic cask, wine cask, red wine cask, I think.
Yeah, I think that's red wine cask. I've probably got a bottle over in the corner there. I'm taking some to Stirling Whisky Festival a week on Saturday, so I think we're literally using the final case that we might have of it or something. So yeah, you've got one of the last bottles going, Mike. Enjoy.
Happy days. Good to hear. Is anyone at home? Are you going to Stirling Festival? Is it this weekend? No, next weekend.
Week and Saturday. Yeah. So
if you're going, make sure you head over and see Paul. Grab some great drams from him. Talking about getting a great dram from you, that Pittyvaich you poured at the Leith Festival, my God. Yeah, one of my standouts, and there was a lot of standouts, but that was one that I named as a favourite. And I think you had was that a 25-year-old Springbank next to it, a 24-year-old?
Yeah, we had a cracking range, 34-year-old Pittyvaich, a 29-year-old Glen Grant, and I think the Springbank was 32. I think we had a 30 Tam Navulin as well. So it's not the type of whiskies that we would take to any festival, to be perfectly honest. But that festival just had a different audience with different and level of enthusiasm. Though it was off the scale and different. If I was being blunt, a different appetite for most audience in terms of how much they would want to spend on a bottle as well. So, yeah, we sold a few bottles of that Pittyvaich. Actually, I thought it was incredibly good. I'm toying with buying a couple of bottles myself, actually, just to keep for my dotage, because I thought it was absolutely first class. So, yeah, really memorable. I've got in fact, I just took it down to the recycling there. I had an empty bottle and. An empty bottle, had about that left in it, and finished it over the last few weeks. But yeah, a very good example of a Pittyvaich, I thought. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was delighted I went left as we walk in for the kind of smaller hall. Because I had a look around. It was a lot of independent. I think it was most of the independent distilleries were in that hall, weren't they? But yeah, obviously you got both hats on, so we managed to get some of the extended palate was still quite fresh as well. Too.
Yeah. And we were that first counter. If you come in that side, we were the first counter. So we had it's the busiest I've ever been at a festival. There was 2 of us staff in it as well. The 32-year-old Springbank, I think we poured 140 drams of it in about 50 minutes. So I think I'm blaming Julie Hamilton for it. Julie, who works for Decadent Drinks and runs Glasgow Whisky Festival, just before it opened. I don't know how well you know Julie. She knows everything there is about Springbank. She's got a Springbank tattoo and all the rest of it. Says, Julie, try this. And you could just know how sometimes you watch people drink whiskey, you just know how much they're enjoying it. As soon as she got the liquid to the lips, you could just tell. And I'm pretty sure she went on to about 5 WhatsApp groups and just told people to come and try it. So yeah, 2 bottles down after about 50 minutes and get really good feedback on it. So yeah, pleasure.
Absolutely. Springbank is one of those things that, again, like probably a different echelon of notoriety than Mortlach, isn't it? It doesn't have it because you can get your hands on a Mortlach for a reasonable price from good indie bottlers. Springbank is kind of different gravy, isn't it? It's you can hardly get your hands into bloody core stuff, let alone a single cask, a 32-year-old. But yeah, so for those who are watching who maybe don't know who Paul Main is, first and foremost, I did say the first question I was going to ask you was what's in your glass.
So, well, I thought I would. I was tempted to go on brand, and I'm to an extent. I've got an indie bottle from Hunter Laing, but I thought, given that you're in Inverurie, I would pick a distillery as close as you as I possibly could. So I've got a 36-year-old Glengarry, the kind of leftovers from a festival that will reappear somewhere else. So it's probably the oldest Glengarry I've had, actually. Really, really nice. Refill hogshead, 46 and a bit percent. Only 173 bottles. So yeah, it's I think Glengarry's great from the distillery, but I like seeing it independently bottled as well, and you getting that variation in character. So yeah, this is kind of quite special. So a wee toast to everybody up in Aberdeenshire and at Glengarry in particular.
Slanger.
Slanger. Cheers.
I'm not sure if I'm glad Kat's not here now, because one, she would be drooling all over that, and yeah, we might not get any words out of her for a wee while.
Well, I had promised to send her some up, actually, for both of you, and I was on holiday last week, so the time I get back, it wasn't going to land in time. So I'll there's enough there for me to get some up to. Kat said send it to her at the distillery, so I'm relying on her sharing it with you, Mike. No.
I've got a few drams that have been sent for her as well, so we will
do a swap.
Yeah, I'll hold him to ransom until I get some of that. But yeah, Glengarry is another one. I don't know the distillery. I like it. It's a good core range, but for me, it's not a standard core range. I love it in an Indy bottle, and I love it at cask strength. Some of the single casks, the handfuls that you get at distillery are phenomenal. Maybe I just got used to the core range, and it's maybe that puts it a bit. I don't want to say flat, but you know what I mean. It's just not like a wow dram for me. But maybe I've drunk so much of it over time. I've done the tour about 200 times, probably taking people around there and stuff like that. But it's not a disservice to it. It's a local gem. It's a big seller for us. And the distillery is probably one of my favorite tours, because you've got that malt flooring. Sometimes you get to go up into the kiln and things like that, and all the guys are local, and the tour guides are all local, which I think is a very important part of any experience.
Yeah, I don't think I've been up there for about 15 years, so I need to go back, and I know there's been lots of changes over that time, but I think what you say there about, you like getting it at higher strength and independently bottled, you could say that about just about anything, especially if you prefer your whiskey at 50 or 52% or whatever else. I find myself saying that about lots of distilleries, and I'm hoping it's not a bias that I work for an independent bottler, but yeah, Glengarry, I've got great memories of it, so I need to go back up there and make the journey up and see what changes have been. Great spirit.
Yeah, as a whiskey enthusiast, I'm sure you'll love it. Dave Fagerson is asking what the price of the 36 is.
Oh, the Glengarry? Oh, I don't know. I have to even see if we've got any left. Let me, I'll go on my phone and do a wee, in fact, I'll just do the retail price, actually. So, I'm trying to think where we last had it at a festival. So, let's see. So that old adage of £10 per year would take it up to about 360. So yeah, 400 I can see it for online there. So yeah, 400's the cheapest price I've seen there. Free delivery if you spend £400. No. So
which is not that, it's not outrageous for a 36-year-old Glengarry. I think that's probably on point in my head, unless it's like a biggie like a Springbank and Macallan or something like that. £10 a year is kind of, once you get over, you're not going to get a bottle of 10-year-old whiskey for a tenner, but maybe about 15-year-old single cask for 150 and go up from that is kind of a good gauge for me.
No, I agree with you. I think that works out about £11 a year, so we're just a wee bit north of 10. But yeah, I mean, it's just I think I don't know if Mark West. I mean, you've had some number of people on your YouTube channel, and I'm delighted to be invited. But I don't know if you've had Mark Westmoreland on from Wolfburn, and Mark.
I haven't actually, no.
Yeah, and Mark says you can make whiskey as complicated as you like about the casks and the still size and the fermentation time and the yeast and all these things, he says, but whiskey comes down to two things: your palate and your wallet. and all their palates are different, all their wallets are different. And I think that's a really, really good summary, to be perfectly honest. So as you can argue all day, some people argue all day, oh, £400 for that's good value, but it's only good value if you get £400 disposable income to spend on a bottle of whiskey.
No,
so
that's exactly right, yeah. Value for money, and that doesn't, like you said, it doesn't matter if you're spending 40 quid on a dram, you want it to be value for money. If you're spending 40 quid on a dram, you want the same value. And that's probably one of what sets whiskey apart from so much other things, is that there will be that price for your budget that you can enjoy and find value in with a bit of digging. But yeah, so I got drawn away from the original question, which was going to be, who is Paul Main, and how have you got to where you are today?
Oh, it's a kind of unusual route, to be honest with you, Mike. I came into whiskey professionally very late. Actually, I was going to say quite late, very late. I've been drinking malt whiskey since probably early 90s, so kind of over 30 years. When I always think there was a boom in whiskey about 2000. Whiskey magazine started, Whiskey Alive shows started. Glencairn Glass came out around about that time. So from 2000 on, kind of whiskey accessibility was kind of a lot easier in terms of festivals and information and stuff. Not as easy as it is now with internet and podcasts and YouTube channels. And then just got really into going around about festivals and mainly in the UK, but then started travelling to Frankfurt, Whiskey Live, Paris, places like that with friends, and started doing the whiskey tours, on bikes and walking tours on bikes, and then eventually the distilleries get too far away. It had to be a driver and a minibus up to Glengarry and Ardmore and places like that. I was in the police at that time, so I retired for the police about 7 years ago and decided to start up my own wee business doing kind of corporate tastings. I started that the week of COVID, so it didn't have the best of launches. And then after COVID and everything got back to normal, I had become friends with Stuart Laing and his family around about 2007-8. And we met regularly, and just at that point, a couple of years before Ardnahoe were bringing products out, they said, would you like to come and do some work for us? And it took me a nanosecond to decide on that, because I knew Stuart and the family really well. I had been buying their whiskey for probably since the early 2000s, to be perfectly honest. I keep saying that I think I've spent given more money back to the company than they've ever paid me, and I've got no complaint about that whatsoever. So it was dead easy to be an ambassador for the product, because I had been buying it for many, many years. And also I don't want to claim I was part of the Ardnahoe journey, because I had absolutely nothing to do with it at all. But Stuart was kind enough to invite me over at key stages of Ardnahoe getting built. So they kind of, when it was just a concrete base, and later on, and then when the stills were going in and the pagoda was going on, and when the official opening was there as well. So, so now that I'm standing promoting Ardnahoe, I kind of was there before, when the place was literally getting a spade in the ground and getting dug out and getting a concrete base put on it. So I feel as if I've got a bit of authenticity about speaking about it, over and above the product and the spirit in the glass. So that's me. So I think I've been working for Hunter Laing now for 4 years. And during that 4 years, it's transitioned from being at festivals solely with the independent range to May 2024, we brought out the inaugural, and now we actually could just do a stand solo with Ardnahoe if we wanted. Just now we're now able to do master classes and do a decent 4, 5 or 6 dram tasting with Ardnahoe. So it's great to have the best of both worlds. That really good inventory of independent stock, and then this kind of new product for the 9th distillery in Islay, that's got a real fan base and enthusiasm about it as well. And but people who are new to whiskey, or new to peated whiskey in particular, are keen to try it. So that's my kind of 30 plus years of drinking whiskey in a couple of minutes. But I realise how lucky I am at the stage in life I'm at, where I could be retired and do nothing to get the opportunity to be working for such a good company with such good inventory and good products.
Yeah. I think you've managed to capture, with Ardnahoe, such a beautiful spot, just kind of on the northeast of the island, isn't it? Kind of overlooking at Jura before,
Yeah.
and it's a good kind of passing route as well, because you've got Colilla and Bunnahabhain just not too far away. So you've got those kind of established places. You can, not that you need to piggyback off, but you had that opportunity for people that are maybe making that journey anyway, who only into Port Askaig, they think, well, I've only got a day or two. You're kind of going to be on that list now for these guys. I mean, who goes to Islay for just a day or two? Probably unheard of nowadays, but
But you're right, because the taxi companies in Islay, they've got a wee route to cover the three distilleries at the south, Lafroig, Lagavulin and Ardbeg, but they do the same thing up in the northeast, as you say, Colilla, Bunnahabhain and ourselves. So and no, for those that have not been there, in the map we're halfway between Colilla and Bunnahabhain, but we're on the road to Bunnahabhain, so we're 2 miles short of Bunnahabhain. So you pass us to get to Bunnahabhain. So most folk that are doing one do the other, which is great, that kind of passing traffic. So, but a great location. The architects did a brilliant job designing the distillery, and
still house is phenomenal.
It the right way,
it's just, I've been twice. I was there in 2019 as part of the Islay Whisky Academy. And I was trying to remember if you're doing spirit then, or if you maybe just
19 we were. Yep. So the first spirit ran in the last week in October 18, and it went into cask in the 9th of November 18. So if you were there in 19, you might have had a chance to try the new make spirit.
Yeah. So a lot of drams that week. I can't remember if we did or not. But, I was back in August last year, and I definitely had some drams there. You started with the Scarabus, didn't it? As a kind of standalone.
Yeah, so Scarabus was a new range that we brought out for, I was going to say for the opening of the distillery. Actually, we brought it out before the distillery was finished. We had a wee shop down at Bridgend. And the idea was to leave visitors with a taste of Islay, if you like. And we were very open and transparent that it wasn't our spirit, obviously, but we wanted people to leave with a spirit that was similar to something we were aiming to. So the Scarabus range probably came out about 2016. And I've got a couple of bottles up there. I've always got it on my shelf long before I ever worked with the company, and it's just became really, really popular. South Africa, it's really popular. Germany, Netherlands. So in fact, I was up at the warehouse today, and just loads of Scarabus getting shrink wrapped and getting ready for getting into containers. So it's been I always thought it might be a brand that when the distillery opened and we actually had Ardnahoe to give to people, it would go into the background, but it's selling well enough that we've kept it going. So good old Scarabus.
And it just kind of joins an endless list of kind of ranges. One of the first whiskies I ever bought, as I kind of ventured into it, was just before we bought the shop, or we started the shop. It was maybe 3-4 years before we opened the shop, was an old malt cask of Dallas Dew.
All right. Okay.
In 1983. I actually sold it to start funding as part of a collection I built up. I sold it. I started collecting 1983 casks because that was the year I was born.
All right.
But I sold them all to start funding the shop when we started that. So that was my first collectible bottle. I think I paid about £300 for it in Dufton, when Mike had the shop there. So so Old Malt Cask, you got Old and Rare, which is the range that we're talking about with the Pittyvaich and the Springbank there.
Yeah.
And then you've got kind of first editions. You've got the Hepburn's Choice.
Hepburn's Choice.
The younger ones, isn't it? That's kind of your 7, 8, 9-year-old kind of range, isn't it?
Yeah, so we tend to, like Hepburn's Choice is always bottled at 46%, Old Malt Cask's always at 50, and then the first editions in Old and Rare are always at cask strength. And generally the age increases over that time as well. As you say, Hepburn's Choice is normally high single figures, sometimes into the double digits. Old Malt Cask is generally teenage years, sometimes into the 20s. And then the first editions are the high teenage years into the 20s and so on. And Old Malt Cask, I mean, it's got such a special place in my heart. I think it might have been, my memory might be playing tricks on me, but it might have been the first independent bottle I ever bought. And it's only later, or years later, I found out that well, for a really traditional company, it was Douglas Laing then. They brought that range out in 1998, and everything was bottled at 50%, whether it was a Auchentoshan or a Glengarry or a Bowmore or a Mortlach, which doesn't sound unusual now, but in 1998, everything was bottled at 40 or 43. I think Springbank did 46. Talisker did round about 46, 45.7 or something. Yeah. And then everything jumped to cask strength. So bottling at 50% was really, really unusual, and really unusual for Douglas Laing, being a family-owned business and very traditional in their thinking over a long period of time. You fast forward to now, and like 50% whiskey is just so popular, especially with whiskey enthusiasts. And I really think it's a brand that was many years ahead of its time. And as I say, it's got a special place for me, as thinking it was the first Indy bottle I bought. And you can see behind me, I've kind of lucky enough to have a lot of bottles, and it's always nice to the number of people that turn up at stands, Mike, and see the old malt cask range and go, oh, my favourite ever old malt cask was, and they come up with these really, really surprising things like you have there, Dallas do. I've never seen an old malt cask Dallas do. So people have got great memories of St Magdalene's and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
Simon, who's watching, said he bought a 21-year-old Macallan old malt cask for £105.
Yeah, I hope you still got it.
There's quite a few comments coming in about the old malt. PX Woodhouse is saying his first independent bottle was a Talisker old malt cask. It wasn't really his cup of tea, but golly, it opened his eyes to a whole new world. Who else is? Alan Smith is saying he's had a crack in old malt cask Mortlach before, and Reb is enjoying. So Mordecai is saying, I'm drinking Tom and Tull 14-year-old from 10 years ago when it's 46% non-filtered natural colour. The only in Tom and Tull I really enjoyed. So that would have been before they've now all 40%. That entry level kind of whiskies. I really like Tom and Tull. I'm not going to say a bad thing. I prefer Glencadam from their kind of setup, but I'm
going to a Glencadam Tom and Tull tasting tomorrow night, actually. I'm a member down at Robbie's Drams down in Ayr. Mm-hmm. So Ian Fortreath's doing a tasting for the members there tomorrow night. So so this time tomorrow it'll be Glencadam and Tom and Tull in my glass.
The newly inducted to the Keepers of the Quaich, Ian Fortreath.
Yeah, I saw that. So I need to press his flesh and bow in front of Ian and say well done. So really pleased for him. Yeah,
he's such an enthusiastic guy. He's literally like a puppy, getting to do what he loves. He's really, really cool. And we've had him on a couple of Blethers where we're kind of chatting to him about another appearance now, but I don't know if he's going to charge us now if he's a keeper of the Quaich. I don't know what happens.
And I need to get up to Glencadam. It's great that they've opened the visitor centre now. And by all accounts, it's people are loving it. Say it's a really, really good visit, and they've done it really well in terms of the look and image, but also the kind of welcome and the friendliness there as well, which is the important part. So fair play.
They're all new to it though. Give them a year, and
they'll get jaded.
Surely not. We had Ed Friday who just put a comment on, and we kind of chatted beforehand just about, obviously, we've talked, you mentioned Stuart as a huge influence in your journey, sadly passing last week, 79 years old. Everyone probably watching has read the obituaries, has seen it from the distillery point of view and things, but for you, who was the man? Who was the person that Stuart was to yourself?
Well, there's one word to describe Stuart that I think many people have, and it's the absolute definition of a gentleman. He was a proper old-fashioned gentleman in the nicest possible way. And old-fashioned, and I don't mean in some of the kind of negative characteristics that you get with being old-fashioned, but just a good old-fashioned businessman who was kind of knew how to run a business. I think him and Fred worked really well together with different skill sets, and then decided to go and do their own things. Obviously, everybody's very sad about it, but every time I think about Stuart, I'm sad for a couple of minutes, and then I just think back about so many happy times that I had with him and he had with other people, and also the legacy left behind. I mean, well, most of us are going to fall off this planet, and there won't be much that we've left behind of any significance. Stuart's does not fall into that category by any stretch of the imagination. And no, the obituary was written. One of the comments in it that struck on me was that Stuart could have retired 15, 20 years ago if we wanted, but he was still coming into the office every day until he couldn't, and then even then he was on the phone every day. So no, for me, he was a great friend, a great person to learn from in terms of understanding the whisky industry through his eyes, which is this year would have been his 60th year in the business, starting in 1966, and just a great guy to learn from. Good standards, very high standards. Everything was built about trust and friendship and reputation and relationships. And I'm sure he could be ruthless when he needed to be. But that was always done in private, never done in public. And any good business person has to a degree of being ruthless. But for most people, they will remember him as being a gentleman, a friend, very engaging, and somebody that loves speaking about whiskey and loved being in the company of whiskey people. I've got a great memory of him sitting at the distillery when it was, I think, maybe 3.5 years old or something. And the distillery manager at the time, Fraser Hughes, came up and said, Mr. Laing, he says, I've just tried some whiskey from one of the sherry casks. He says, you could bottle that and it would sell tomorrow. And he just turned around and he says, I know it would, Fraser, he says, but we're not bringing out a sherry cask as our first whiskey from Ardnahoe. And that was just a the kind of traditional background he had came from the kind of 60s. And no, I've got great memories of him, and sad as the last week's been, my sadness gets overtaken really, really quickly with some great memories. And I hope that's the same for Scott and Andrew and Anna and for everybody else in the company and anybody else that knew him, to be perfectly honest. If you can leave people with great memories, it's a nice way to leave this mortal, leave this place, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll raise a wee dram to Stuart.
Well, I've got the Ardnahoe Festival bottle from last year with a wee drop in it. So yeah, cheers, Stuart. God bless him. I never like doing an absent friends toast, because it normally puts people in a sad mood. And normally I've had really good whiskies, and if you're in a sad mood, you don't enjoy them as much. But anytime I'm thinking about absent friends, I always think of good positive memories, and the whiskey tastes a lot better. What one's that you've got there? Is it the inaugural or
the inaugural? Yeah,
lovely.
The 5. We bought this from Ferret at the Highland Whisky Shop in Inverness. It was the week it launched. We were up, and we'd sold out our own stuff before because I was on holiday that week, so I didn't even get to see it in my own shop. We were up and bought this bottle and cracked it open. Me and the wife. I think it was our first holiday away since the wee man was born. I think it was maybe just a wee trip up. Just past Tain, had a wee dram of that sitting in the caravan, and so it was a really nice memory of us. I do like I would like to get in touch with the designer though, because I don't know if you really
I know what you're going to say.
We've joked about it a few times. I never actually spoke to anyone from the company on it, but it's a beautiful logo. I love it. Absolutely.
Listen, I only noticed it today, Mike. I only noticed it today when I was looking at your channels, and I've seen it before, but I've never spotted the resemblance between your logo and Ardnahoe's, and I thought, and I know we paid a lot of money for somebody to do that, so so yeah, there's kind of very, very similar. But just with your inaugural bottle, actually, and Friday night, I was on holiday and I came back on Friday. So Friday night, I sat with almost the last dram out a bottle of inaugural, and had a wee kind of quiet I don't normally drink whiskey and moan, but I sat in the downstairs room and had a wee kind of memory of Stuart and did a wee kind of toast to him. And then I come up with this great idea. So I've got about that amount left in the inaugural bottle. And I thought, I'm going to create an infinity bottle in that inaugural bottle.
Yeah.
And I'll just take it to whiskey festivals and let people try it. So I'm lucky enough that obviously I get access to a lot of different Ardnahoes, some of which have been released and some of which haven't. So I'll be able to fill that up relatively quickly, give it a wee shake, and let people try it. So I've started putting some stuff in it. So I'm really looking keen to it getting full and letting people share it. And it'll be my kind of constant way of getting back and thinking of Stuart. So.
Yeah,
So.
there'll always be that drop of him in there. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's nice. That's nice. He said he didn't want to do a sherry cask for his first release, but there is sherry in here, isn't there?
And yeah, a tiny amount. I think the inaugural was 95 and 5%. I think it was 95 bourbon, 5 sherry, if memory serves me right. So that was just to kind of just balance it off. No, eventually the blenders like that. No, listen, this is what's going to work at that age and that strength. And again, we brought our core range, as you know, is 50%. So that was a wee bit of, I think that was always in the mind of the family, hark back to the old malt cask range. I think it works for a younger spirit as well, a wee bit higher ABV, gives it a wee bit more maturity. And we certainly felt that the dram works at 50%. And if it's too strong for you, well, it's a generous dram, and you can make it last longer with adding a bit of water. So I think it works well at 50, to be honest.
It's really nice. I think somebody did mention Alan Smith, who's watching it on YouTube, says it the best inaugural ever. Certainly in recent memory. I think it's certainly up there. There has been a few really, really good ones, but I think this was £70 on the shelf. I think it was.
I've got 65 in my head, but I could be wrong.
Maybe the false 70. But, but going from strength to strength, having this, and it's a wonderful portrayal of Islay without going too much into that peat. You've got a really nice balance there, a little bit of maltiness, a little bit of sweetness, with that kind of almost like it's got that Highland peat, the kind of mainland peaty sweetness, but just maybe a little bit of that underlying salinity, that little TCP, maybe not overloaded with that medicinal note. Just to let you know where the distillery's from. It's just like saying, we're sweet, but we've got a little hint of the island going on there.
So listen, there's a good story about that, because I forget which visit it was to Ardnahoe. I always thought it was, I was thinking about this before coming on. I think the distillery was either a concrete base at the time, or it was maybe the time that the stills come down for Forsyths and were getting put in. But Jim McEwen was the advisor for it, and Jim and Stuart went way back. Jim can still remember Stuart being on the island in 1966 when he did his kind of year's apprenticeship at Bruichladdich. So they went years back, and I'd only met Jim a couple of times in passing. And this day, Jim says to me, do you fancy going for a coffee? So he drove us down to Bridgend, and we went for a coffee, and we sat down. Must have sat for about an hour and a half, and I was smart enough to know that if you're in Jim's company, just let him talk. I just kind of went into listening mode and hardly said a word, to be perfectly honest. But I remember the summary of the conversation at the time was, he says, Paul, what we're going to do at Ardnahoe, and bearing in mind, the distillery was either a concrete base or the stills were just kind of, all the engineering wasn't done by any stretch of imagination. But I remember him saying to me, Paul, what we're going to do, Stuart said to us, we want to create a traditional Islay whisky. So what we're going to do is create an Islay whisky that, on the nose, you're going to go to Islay, it's going to be smoky and peaty. He says, but on the palate, it's going to be really, really fruit forward, and you're going to get smoke and peat at the back of the palate. That's going to be our point of difference. And he was saying things like, we could copy any other distillery in Islay and make it similar, but why would you do that? You've got to do something different from the others. And bearing in mind Jim's experience, which was vast, as everyone knows, for all the things he had done, he had never been involved in a new build distillery. Actually running the first spirit out of distillery. I know they kind of Bruichladdich had been closed and took over, but running the first ever spirit out of distillery. And I remember coming away from that coffee and going back to the distillery and thinking, what a crack time I've had with an hour and a half with Jim McEwan. But I think he's maybe overstretching himself if he can tell me what the whiskey's going to be like in the glass in 8-9 years' time. Bearing in mind the distillery didn't open for 2 years, and sure enough, even with the new make spirit, you get that smoke in the nose, it's fruit forward, the peat and the smoke come at the back of the palate, so you get the fruit dominating the peat rather than the peat dominating the fruit, which was the characteristic of most other peated Islay whiskies and peated whiskies from elsewhere. And it just shows the real craft and intelligence of Jim, and obviously by that time Fraser Hughes and David Livingston had came on board as well. But that's really, really skillful when you can design flavour into a distillery. And he's not the only one to have done it now. Rather than taking over a distillery that's 150 years old, it already has its characteristic and flavour profile. So kind of fair play to Jim for what he did. And I know we've spoke about Stuart's legacy there, but we should never forget Jim's contribution to what we've got in our glass now. It's fascinating.
Jim's kind of the man who's retired more times than I don't know. I've had whiskies. Every time you see him, but I think that's him now, isn't it? He's well and truly feet up. Yeah,
I think his wife does a patrol at the front gate to make sure no more visitors come in. That he's done his bit, and he deserves good health and a long retirement. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a testament to Jim and his stories that the Water of Life movie, which was meant to be about whiskey, kind of had so much. And the guys were Greg and Nate and that who were behind it were like, we just couldn't get away from him. There were so many stories, and even when we spoke to somebody else, Jim's name kept coming up.
Yeah.
So we kept coming back, and we thought, you know what, he embodies the Water of Life. It fits so well, and so we made a document. So they've made another two films since. Everything else in it probably would have been in the original film if it wasn't for Jim McEwan.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, I'm very much of the view whiskey's a social drink. It's about memories and stories and conversations, and Jim's got a million of them now. And I can imagine either interviewing him, for a book or a TV series or a film, and it would just be an interviewer's dream, because you just ask a question and you probably don't need to think about your next question for about 20 minutes. You just get entertained. And
we had them on a virtual tasting during lockdown, and the world went virtual, and we got him. We did his it was basically his story in drams. Bowmore, we had a couple of Bruichladdich. Then we did some Locking Down from his Cast Whisper range, finished on the David Simpson 20-year-old Bowmore, kind of full circle for him. And he was on live and he was chatting away to us. They had the guys at home in stitches, and we paired up with Robin Laing as well. So Jim would tell a story, would have the dram. While we're enjoying the dram, Robin would play some music, and these two guys go way back.
Yeah,
and I'd like to think he did it deliberately, but as soon as he finished talking about one dram, he was like, right, and we'll go on to the next dram now, boys. And Robin's like in the background saying, excuse me, Jim, I'm going to do my bit now, if you don't mind. And the two worked together so well that at the end of the tasting, Jim, showing his techie, savvy mind, he just got up and went away, and Barbara had made him his dinner, which was sitting on the dining table behind the screen. So we were all sitting there watching Jim sitting at his table, scoffing in the background. Was shouting at him, Jim, turn off the light. So Barbara eventually came in and turned it off for him. It was hilarious.
And I think we lost Robin Laing earlier this year as well, didn't we?
Yeah, that came out.
God
came out of the blue. Another one. Too soon, I think.
Yeah, another. Cheers.
An absolute legend.
He's another one that's created lots of great memories for people as well. So
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's lovely.
yeah. He's Robin's been up to the shop doing a couple of gigs for us. And we always have his music on when we're doing a tour as well. So he's a genuinely great guy and a huge miss as well. I'm just trying to catch up because we've been yapping away about memories. Just looking at the chat here. Ardnahoe 6 barflies. This is from Rev Mordecai. Sweet peat on the tongue, integrates perfectly into the tangy fruits. He described it as barbecued pineapple. Citrus, tangerines, grapes, kiwi, touch of fresh mint. That was the Roy's Ardnahoe release for the bar.
Yeah. That was 55% he bottled that at, so 6 years old, 55%, all first fill bourbon. Yeah, really nice bottle. I was actually I took Roy up to our bottling plant for him to actually get involved in the bottling of it, and Roy won't mind me saying this, but he was like an expectant father kind of on the day. So even though he had tried samples, basically from static casks in the warehouse. So by the time the cask got rolled and moved and vatted together and all the rest of it, he knew there was going to be a kind of change, and he was just hoping it wasn't going to be too much of a change. But that was a real highlight of last year for me, actually, just taking Roy up and watching it getting bottled and getting a wee bit of hands on himself, but really, really successful. I think it's his biggest bottling yet and sold out really, really quickly. So, and it's great to see online how many people are taking the seal off and opening the bottle rather than just letting it gather dust. So it's a really, really nice expression of Ardnahoe at 55%, actually.
Yeah. I think the barfly community would lynch another barfly if they see them try to flip it or then try to flip it.
Yeah, I know.
They're so dedicated to the enjoyment and the community of drinking whiskey rather than flipping or storing it.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Roy invited me to an event last November, so just the day before the Glasgow Whisky Festival, he has an event for, I think it was about 100 barflies, and myself and I think there were 6 others for different companies, basically to bring something unusual. So we brought a heavily peated Ardnahoe that nobody had ever tried, just a couple of cask samples. At cask strength, really, really popular on the day, only 5 years old. So popular that we're actually bottling it and bringing it out. Should have been this month, but there's a few logistical issues with labels, the usual kind of thing. So I think it will probably come out next month. It's going to be a heavily peated Ardnahoe, 60.2%, I think, 6 years old. And it's a combination of the sample I brought was all Oloroso cask, but this is when our blender looked at it, he says, no, let's balance the Oloroso way with some bourbon cask, so it's almost a kind of 50-50 mix. And yeah, I think people will like it. I think peat fans will definitely like it. But it's still that, as much as it's heavily peated, it's still very fruit forward as well. So I'm looking forward to that getting on the shelves and getting feedback from people about it.
I think sometimes when you go for that sherry heavy kind of style, you lose the peat flavor. That the sherry can kind of overpower the peat, or it gives a flavor that's so intense that they kind of clash heads. Where if the bourbon just softens, it kind of acts like a little referee, doesn't it, and just makes sure that they kind of behave themselves in their own little corner.
And I've changed my view about Ardnahoe. No, originally I thought it shone best in bourbon, and this Fesh bottle's, I think, 4 or 5 first fill bourbon casks vatted together. But when I've tried the sherry casks and some of the sherry quarter casks, it shines in that as well. So I'm hopeful that what we've made is a spirit that's versatile. No, it's versatile enough that it's going to work in different cask types, and albeit some of the cask types we've got are going to take a wee bit longer for it to optimise. And you'll maybe see them in maybe a year or 2 or 3 years time. But no, the feedback about Ardnahoe has been really, really good, and I think it's one of the ones where if you're a peat fan, there's enough peat in it to really interest you. But if peat's not your thing, the peat's actually soft enough that it can sort of draw you into the dark side, to be perfectly honest. A number of people have poured it for Mike that have said, I don't really like peat, but I like that. Has been really good. So yeah.
I mean, the people we have every day almost we'll have somebody coming at the shop and say, I don't like peat. Probably more common is I don't like Isla malts. And that's the one that kind of grinds the gears a little bit, because it's then you have to remember that Joe Public, they're not like the guys watching tonight. They're not like you and I, who kind of are really into the industry and all that. They probably had one Isla, and such as the branding at the moment kind of suggests that if that's an Isla whiskey, if you go into Weatherspoons, and they've got the whiskey map and they have notes written down, great for the everyday kind of guy or lady drinking whiskey. But it's that education of, well, you maybe tried a Lefroy and you hated it, but have you tried a Brooklady or a Bunnahabhain and the lighter side? Maybe go back that step and then step into an Ardnahoe or a Coleman, where it's just starting to build up that peat and discover something, or have it with a little bit of fish, or have it with a little bit of steak or something like that, and let your palate kind of play these flavors against each other. It's all about the experience for me. It's and the amount of people put off, because and not just Isla whiskies, but whiskies in general, the amount of people who are put off because they've been
and that's why when you get through an airport and they're giving drams away, you'll never see them giving away a Lefroy or an Ardbeg, because people that try it and don't like it, not only will they say, I'm never drinking a Lefroy again, they'll say, I'm never drinking a whiskey again. So you're more likely to see a Bunnahabhain or a Glengoyne or a Glengarry or something that is going to have its own unique profile, but is going to be accepted to a kind of broader palate, or a broader number of people in terms of their palate. So it's I've been loving trying some of the Ardnahoes that are getting developed and looking for the future and all the rest of it. So this new one will come out next month, and then we'll get the Fesh bottle and that will come out next month as well. So exciting times for us. So we'll need to get some bottles up to you to pour in the shop, Mike, to make sure that when people don't like peat or say they don't like peat, it's Ardnahoe you're pouring for them.
Yeah, we'll have to get you up to pour them for us as well. That'd be
that'd be good. That'd be good.
Well, as you say, you've probably got enough now in the Ardnahoe range that there's a selection there going on, and the cast strength coming out. Did you say about a month down the line yet?
Yeah, the date keeps moving, but I think it's now going to be into May. So that gives us the Infinite Lock, predominantly bourbon, the Bolsa, majority sherry, the cast strength, all first fill bourbon, and then this new one, the heavily peated, and then there'll be other small batch bottlings that'll appear from time to time, and certainly when I go to festivals, I'm keen to be taking some warehouse samples, cast samples to certain festivals where, if people are really interested in Ardnahoe, we can say, well, here's something in Madeira that, what do you think? And we don't have a firm plan for things like that just now, to be perfectly honest. We've got a rough idea, but we didn't have a firm plan for this heavily peated one until the feedback in November, and then all of a sudden it kind of get brought to the fore and get blended together, and we're thinking, this is ready at 6 years old. So feedback's, it's a good way for us to let people try something that they can't try, but allows us to get feedback as well. And if enough people say, no, I'm not quite sure about that, I preferred something else, well, it might be that it goes more on the back burner. But certainly for the experience from last November, that kind of get brought forward. In November, there was absolutely no plan to bottle that, and it should be out ideally in April, but probably in May. So, so I hope people enjoy it.
The guys that were on the chat saying, Tony Nelson saying he loved the heavily peated sample at the under the table tasting in November. So I think, and going by what you're saying, it's going to be going down really well. Is this Ardnahoe now just creating a core range at the moment? Are they trying things, and then we'll maybe have 4 or 5 in that core range, and probably 10-year-old won't be far off then.
So that's exactly where we are. So the Infinite Lock and the Bolsa don't have age statements on them. The ones that people have tried are all 5 years old. But the next time we've got one together, it will be probably mostly 6-year-old. There might be some younger whiskies in it, and eventually we'll get to a position where that is an age statement on it. And the same with Bolsa. So we don't know what that age statement's going to be yet. The old kind of cliche, but it's a true cliche. The whiskey will tell us, to be honest, especially if we're committing to bottling at 50%. And if we remain at that, the whiskey, no, that means there's one less variable, so the whiskey will kind of tell us. So that's us get a predominantly bourbon, majority sherry, a cask strength one, a heavily peated one, and we'll see what else comes down the line. So yeah, four in a core range. And then these special bottlings, and that's before we bring anything out. So away in the future, there'll be an unpeated Ardnahoe. We're doing some work with local farmers on Islay, where we've got our own local barley, to use that phrase. Hope I'm not stealing someone's trademark there, but Islay barley, which no is not round the corner, but there'll be a point where we have an Islay barley at Ardnahoe as well, maybe in kind of quite small amounts, I think. And that's before we get to an age statement. So whether that's going to be an 8 or a 10 or a 12, who knows? We'll see. But we'll bring out our first distillery 7-year-old next month at the Fesh. So that'll be our day's the Wednesday, the 27th. And we've got a 7-year-old coming out then. So 7-year-old first fill bourbon. I forget if it's 4 or 5 casks put together. So that will do well. I'm sure.
Is that going to be 50% as well, or is that going to be a natural cask?
That'll be cask strength. And don't ask me what it is, but it's probably, I've got 60.1 in my head, but don't, I can't swear to that. I've kind of maybe getting mixed up with something else, but the one last year came out at 59.8, so I'll be in that kind of ballpark. I'll be in that ballpark.
Sure. Reb Mordecai saying the Islay local barley sounds fantastic, but needs to be 100% bourbon to show off the malted barley. I'll agree with him in a caveat that he admits that because of his kosher restrictions.
Yeah, bourbon's best.
He just wants you to do 100% bourbon. He's been very, very selfish, but I accept that. Yeah, I think it would really show off that.
Yeah, and a really good example was if you've tried the Arran barley. I mean, the Arran 10, I think, is a great whiskey. I mean, everybody loves it, and the price point's great. But I was really surprised how different the Arran barley one was. I know it's kind of slightly higher ABV. I think it's 54 or something.
Yeah,
but it's a real noticeable difference with the difference in barley and a bit of a spicier flavour. So it'll be interesting to see what Ardnahoe's like with Islay barley, to be honest, when the time comes. But just to manage expectations, it's more medium to long term rather than short term. So don't start saving your pennies yet.
Let's try not to get too excited. Great questions coming in now again, and we've got Rick Johnson from the Whisky Zone over in San Francisco.
I followed Rick on Instagram today for the first time. So hi Rick, my apologies for not picking up in your channel before. So cheers Rick, good to see you.
We caught up with Rick at the festival.
Yeah, it was in good form.
And that's another great thing about festivals like that. We get folk from all over the world come in and we get to catch up with them. You know, chatting online is great, but shake a hand, pour a dram, and clink a glass. It's completely different.
Sorry, what was Rick's? Was he asking a question or making a point?
Yeah. He says there seems to be new Ardnahoe releases coming out every month from overseas markets. Do you have any idea of what percentage of Ardnahoe goes to the markets outside of the UK?
So that's a really good question, actually. And it might have been Rick that made the comment, and it might not. So forgive me if it wasn't. But in the back of the Independent Festival at Leith a couple of weeks ago, somebody put a comment online that said there's far more bottles overseas than there were at Leith. And that's fair. So basically, the reason for that is if our distributor in Switzerland or Finland or Lebanon or Cyprus or where else have we done it? Iceland, say, if we bottle a single cask and we get or a quarter cask and get 130 bottles, or a cask and get 350 bottles, we'll take them. and we think we can distribute it to our retailers and customers, then if we've got a long-standing relationship with that distributor or retailer, and remember, going back to what I said about Stuart, everything's about trust and confidence and relationships and handshakes, then we're likely to do that. So if you're in the UK or perhaps in the US, like Rick, there's not a UK distributor that said, other than the Whisky Shop actually, there's not a UK distributor that said, could we do that? Whereas Germany have asked for half a dozen over the last couple of years. Switzerland are on their second or third, yada, yada, yada. So we're responding to requests from our trusted partners who know their market really, really well and know our product really, really well. And basically they're the intermediary between our product and their customers, and it's our whiskey, but they do all the work getting it to market. So that's why we've done it in the countries that we have, and there's an appetite to do it in other countries as well if they feel that meets the demand. The States, being the States, it's slightly more difficult to get stuff in across different states across there. I don't want to get into politics, but the big misnomer of the United States and America is there's no united nature of it, especially when you look through a whiskey lens. It's all different in every state. But our distributor in America just now is Total Wine. So Total Wine have, in fact, I think we've got a container of Ardnahoe going over to them just now, and I saw some more at the warehouse today that's going to be getting shipped over in months to come. So where Total Wine are, probably Ardnahoe are just now, but none of those special release single casks, but I wouldn't rule it out for the future.
Fair play. Great answer. Rick, I hope that's answered your question. We're just going to say to another one from the United States, James, who's saying hello. James DeGio is saying hello from Rhode Island. James, it was great to meet you again at the festival. Unfortunately, we just shook hands and you introduced yourself in person just as the film was starting, and we said, we'll catch up after the film. Such is the nature of the beast. We didn't get that chance, but next time we will. Somebody said Aaron can't put a foot wrong. I agree. They've got some really good stuff.
Absolutely.
And then there was another one I want to come back to. PX Woodhouse is asking, is there a possibility of minis? So there are 5 centiliter releases or maybe 20 centiliter releases. 20 centiliter releases.
Watch this space. That's a really interesting question. So we'd like to do 5CLs packs. Yeah, that's something that's that we would aspire to. Easier said than done, but we'd like to be able to do it. We really, really would. And now that we've got that kind of range, no, it's not going to be a pack of 1 or 2. So yeah, and many people have asked us that, and it's great for different markets. No, it's great in the Highlands of Scotland, no, the kind of tourist places, as well as Edinburgh, Glasgow, elsewhere, wherever tourists go. But there's an appetite to do it internationally, ideally. But again, easier said than done. So it's one of the projects we'd like to bring to fruition.
No, because that's one thing we settle up, especially summertime when we've got visitors, Christmas time for gifts. Those wee gift sets with the 3 or the 4 range, and now kind of as restrictions in the airports have lessened slightly, they're great to take on the plane, and you can get them across pretty safely. So I think the problem is the cost, because it costs almost the same handling wise for a miniature, for a 5CL. The production of that is almost the same as the production of a 7.
Glass costs are disproportionately high based on the size of the bottle or the volume that it holds. So that's the thing. So it's making it affordable, and then the logistics as well. We've got our own bottling hall, so I know if I spoke to Stephen today and said, listen, we're needing to do 10,000 or 50,000 kind of wee packs and all the rest of it, would be, that's another project. But it would be nice to get it done. And I think if we did do it, we would probably have to do it in a big enough volume that we would only do it once every so often, but then they're on the shelves for a while. We did that with the inaugural. No, I think the inaugural was a 72,000 bottle release.
Yeah.
And there was a very deliberate thought about that, you'll see the Loch Lee bottles I've got behind me. I'm a big fan of Loch Lee, but no, when Loch Lee's inaugural came out, I don't think they called it that, but no, the first Loch Lee came out, it was 6,000 bottles worldwide.
First edition, I think it was.
Yeah, that was it. 3,000 in the UK, 3,000 abroad, and it was great. But I don't think there was a whiskey shop in the UK that actually ever had it on its shelves, because they got it and they had enough customers that were wanting to buy it that just get delivered from the storeroom effectively.
Yeah.
There was a conscious decision when we were releasing the first Ardnahoe, the inaugural, that we were going to do it in enough volumes that we were happy for it to sit in shelves for 6 or 8 or 9 months. And we didn't want accessibility to be a problem. So if you were looking for a bottle of inaugural Ardnahoe, you would get it, rather than most people that were looking for a bottle of Loch Lee. And I'm not criticising Loch Lee at all. I'm a big fan, own a cask there. Most people that looked for a bottle of Loch Lee were said, sorry, we're sold out, we're sold out, we're sold out. So we were really keen to do that, and I suppose if we went with minis, we'd be keen to do that as well. Talking about inaugurals, I've just taken my first ever sip of the Aberargie inaugural.
Oh yeah,
what a lovely dram that is.
it is. Yeah. I had my first dram of it 2 weeks ago in the Grill Bar in Aberdeen. Took myself there in a wee solo venture. Walked in, and that was the first dram on the shelf that I saw, and I thought, start off with that. It's they had 10 years, didn't they? They waited for that. This setup. Obviously, Morrison Mackay or Morrison Distillers now, the family goes back as long as whiskey almost. It's such a long. So they've been able, they've had the means to be able to be very, very patient and produce a stunning dram.
48.2. Lovely. I mean, I've just finished the Ardnahoe there and then went on to that, and there's still plenty of depth and flavour and character and nice long finish as well. Yeah, it's I've heard lots of great things about it. I just thought I'd pour a few drams tonight for this, and well, that's impressed me. Cheers. Well done, the Morrisons.
What I like about that is, again, it goes back to what you mentioned before about the Ardnahoe spirit, is that although it's peated, you can go straight into another, something like a Lowland or something very quite light and fresh, and not have the same impact. That lingering kind of trepidation that maybe people do have. One of my favourite things to do in a tasting is throw in a peat in the middle and then go unpeated again.
Me too.
To get that shelf after, because everyone thinks they're going to be peat is going to be the end. And I can see why people do that. But, most of the time we're dealing with whiskey enthusiasts, fans, and guys who love it, and throwing in a wee flavour bomb like that is great.
Often what I do, Mike, is do a tasting, and I do it in. So years gone by, it would always be like a vertical tasting, and it would be the youngest to the oldest.
Yeah.
And the other way of doing it was the lightest flavours to the heaviest, and the peat ones would come last. Often what I do is just do it by increasing ABV. So you start at 40, 43, 46, and you finish at cask strength. And inevitably that might mean in a 6 dram tasting, dram 2 and 5 are the peated ones, or 2 and 4. And it's amazing, unless it's a real peat bomb, it's amazing how often that, just like I've experienced tonight, you can have a peated whiskey but still pick up all the characteristics of an unpeated whiskey immediately after it. So I like doing that, throwing in a peated whiskey a wee bit earlier than the end.
We had a tasting, again, it was one of these virtual ones. It was all Octomore. Abby was our host. I think she's got a new thought. She's stepped up a level now. She's kind of global sales ambassador or something. But what she was describing is like, Octomore, the heaviest peated, but only in number, maybe not in flavour, which is what I love about a lot of Octomore come out the same age as what I'm drinking just now, with that 5-year-old and a 5-6 years old. And she says, there's a couple of guys who were on that tasting who weren't peated fans. First thing she said is, "What the fuck are you doing in an Octomore tasting if you don't like
an Octomore tasting?" Yeah,
but let's ignore that. It's honestly to sit and while I'm talking, while I'm introducing us, the brand, the story, and all that, just smell the whiskey and keep smelling it and keep smelling it. And there'll be a point where the nose will lose the whiskey, lose the smoke. Then you'll start to look for other things. Then you'll start to find the maltiness, that toffee sweetness, and all this. And it was fascinating to see this moment of realization as everyone kind of domino effect, kind of, oh, wow. Oh, yeah, this is good. It was such a great experience because I think the right thing in the background of that is that because peat is smoke-related, smoke is dangerous to humans. That's why it's so offensive to the nose. But when your brain kind of clicks that the smoke is going to do you no harm, it kind of thinks, well, what else is in there that I can kind of talk about and discover? And it was such a fascinating tasting to experience from that point of view.
Yeah.
And I try to use that a lot. It's just, if you don't like the smell of it, smell it more.
Smell, yeah.
Eventually, you'll get into it and used to it.
And I think also, if I understand, peat's not linear. So like 100 ppm is not twice 50 in terms of the levels of peat. Obviously in numerical measurement it is, but not in taste. I think it's kind of more a curve graph. I forget what you call that, but 150 ppm isn't 3 times a 50 ppm bottle. And also we're not, if there's one thing I could change in whiskey, it would be, let's speak about the ppm in the bottle, rather than the barley before it goes into the distillation process. So I think I'm not saying they're smoking mirrors deliberately, but there is a lack of transparency about how peated your peated whiskey is, when all you're getting for most distilleries, not all, but for most distilleries, is here's what the peated levels were when it was just malted barley. So it'd be nice to have it. No, so we don't actually. I would like it if we led a wee bit in that. So ours is 40 parts per million. We reckon in a bottle it's probably about 12 to 14, which doesn't really mean anything unless you've got what's Ardbeg 10 in the bottle, what's Kalila 12 in the bottle. There's no kind of real comparison. So the only comparison people have just now is the barley.
Yeah. I think Kalila is round about that 42 to 45, and the barley, Ardbeg, Lafroig, Kilchoman are all about that 50-ish mark. But yeah, like Pittyvaich and I want to say Annick, they're peated, are the only two that I know of that do the bottle. There might be others, but I think they're the only two that do the what's in the bottle.
I thought Ardnahoe might, but maybe I'm getting their kind of QR code and
they may be doing the
transparency mixed up. I'm not sure.
It's not on the label, but it might be on the if you scan through. But it's
the blockchain.
It's a little bit like age. It's a little bit like ABV. People see a number and they can recognize it. They resonate with it. And I understand what that number means. And then you drink it. It's completely. You have 3-year-olds like this 5-year-old that I'm drinking just now. Does flavor beyond its age. Easily sit in a lineup of 10, 12, 15-year-olds. And then you have a 30-year-old that can be like, what is this?
Always say it's like maturity and age are two different things. Like you can't change the age of a whiskey, but you can change the maturity of it by how you've looked after it over the years or not looked after it. It's nice to, the feedback we're getting with Ardnahoe, I love putting it in blind tastings. People never guess it's 5 or 6 years old, so that's always good. And they never guess the strength of it. They never, when we put our cask strength out at 60.1% or something, people never guess it's 60.1. It feels older than its age in the bottle and drinks softer than the ABV on it, which I think is always a good sign of a cask strength whiskey, to be honest. So
yeah, absolutely. So guys, Sugar Kitty has commented the ppm in the bottle. Amen to that. Rebus in the Octomore 7.1 brought back memories of the old Southend-on-Sea Pier Railway, burning electrical wires, dirty engine oil. Subsequent releases much milder and fruitier.
That's a brilliant tasting note. That's like an SMWS kind of name for a bottle.
Have Ardnahoe done an SMWS, or have SMWS done an Ardnahoe?
No, not. I think I would be surprised if we didn't at some point in the future. That's probably the best way I can describe that. But no, not yet. And I want to be upstream enough that I can get bottle number one if we do one. So I think by that time we'll be. I think they're at way up in the high 150s or 160s now. So God knows what number we'll be. So no, I think one of the things that's influenced our decisions about some of these small batches and single casks, if you're a private cask owner, you're able to, your contract means that you've paid insurance and costs with us for 10 years, but you're able to bottle after 8. So for most people, that 8 years will come up in the early part of either late 2026 or early part of 2027 for most people. So we anticipate that there'll be a number of private cask bottlings of Ardnahoe coming out in 2027 and beyond. And whilst we're happy to work with distributors in Switzerland and Germany and elsewhere that we've had long-term relationships with, we don't want to have so many that the private cask owners feel as if that they've not got something special with themselves as well. So it's about striking that balance, giving the private cask owners something obviously they've got something unique, but making sure by the time they're able to get their bottle that the market's not already flooded with similar things as well. So
absolute sense. There goes my next question is, could we do a label swap and I can get my wee logo on a wee bottle instead?
Yeah, listen, let's listen, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. It's I think we've done a lot of quarter cask bottlings with smaller distributors or retailers, so that comes out generally about 120, 130 bottles. But it'd be nice to see the two logos side by side, Mike. And yeah, we could do I've got an empty Ardnahoe bottle there, so we maybe need to get your logo on it for even as a lampshade, if nothing else.
We could do that, I'm sure. Brilliant.
And just on that, I mean, I don't know what your logo is, but ours is basically the pagoda and the distillery, the Papsi Jura in the background, the sky, the sun, and the sea. So that was the kind of the brief or the brief that came back from our designers. So yours must be very similar in terms of, is there a church spire? And
so this is the distillery. This is a pagoda distillery warehouse or distillery building. The two rivers or the two streams here are the two rivers of Inverurie.
I got you.
And Don. And then this is Benahee, which is our local mountain in the background.
Yeah. So people can see how similar they are. So one designer's made a lot of money out of they two, I think. Or great minds think alike. They were both done before AI as well.
It was, and I remember doing so my wife is a designer. She didn't design our logo, but she's got her degree in design for digital media. And I remember going to her graduation where they showcase all the work and the art. It wasn't the graduation, but it was like a showcase of the work that everyone had done. And there was this gin brand was sitting there, and it was pretty much our logo design. So it was maybe him or the designer there who graduated and went off and did, because I took photos of it and sent it to Steve, who designed our logo, and he's like, I remember, what do you do about that? He said he didn't know if you had a legal standing or whatever, but I would like to think it was purely coincidental, but it maybe was. You don't know if he graduated from Grey School of Art.
No, I just know the company we paid got a pretty penny out of it. But to be fair, we're really pleased. I mean, we're really pleased. I never thought when I first started drinking whiskey that I'd speak about the design of bottles and labels and logos and all the rest of it. The first time I saw this, I really liked it. I think it's got that. It's kind of quite old-fashioned and traditional, but contemporary at the same time. The quality of the label's really good. So the people that did the branding work for that, you only pay them once, and no, unless we have a rebrand in 10 or 15 years' time, no, it's going to be like that for a while. But I'd be quite happy for it to stay like that for a long, long time. I think it looks
Yeah.
good, and kind of travels well internationally as well.
I think you've done the rebrand before it was needed done. I think you look at what other people are doing now is it's very similar to what you've already got. You know, they're simplifying things. They're going with that kind of bold background, big kind of capital letters, nicely spaced out.
Yeah.
I think you've been there. When was this released? 3 years ago?
May 24, so nearly 2
years
years ago. So just coming up
Yeah.
2 years next month, May the 10th.
God, feels a lot longer ago than that. Yeah, I think you got there before the other guys came in. We're having a lot of questions asking about your personal preferences to whiskey. So I wanted to get the on brand things we've done enough chat on that. So on a personal level, Paul, this is coming from Springer G. What's your favorite drams out with Hunter Laing and Ardnahoe? Let's say and Ardnahoe.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly changes every week, I think. You know, if you said to me 2 weeks ago, I would have been the biggest Pittyvaich fan in the world, I think, after that independent festival. But the two constants in my collection that, I'll say my collection, and you know, what I've got that I open often, we've mentioned one of them already, is Arran. Arran, I just think's really consistent, but varied as well in terms of peated, unpeated. I know the peated stuff's moved to lag now, but whether it's an Amarone cask or a Sauterne cask or a rum or a Madeira cask, the spirit just shines through all the time. So Arm's a fan, and the other one's Glenfarclas. I'm a fan of Glenfarclas. Just again, family-owned business for 5 generations, I think, and just consistently produce good whiskies. Prefer it at a higher strength, which is the 15-year-old. Just looking behind me there, Glen Scotia as well. I mean, if you said to me, if somebody came to my house 20 years ago with a bottle of Glen Scotia, I'm not sure I'd have invited them back, because Glen Scotia at that time, as many people know, wasn't that good. But if you come to my house now and bring a bottle of Glen Scotia, you'll always be coming back. It's great spirit, and it's a really good story about transformation, actually. And Ian McAllister deserves a great deal of credit for that, and Ashley, who's taking over for him, is doing a fantastic job, and some of the releases that she's done this year have been just to the same standard, if not better, and that says something. So I suppose that's the 3 distilleries that I go back to most frequently, are in Glenfarclas and Glen Scotia, and probably have to give a mention to Lockleigh as well. But there's loads. I mean, there's never been a better time to be a whiskey fan. I'm a whiskey fan at heart. I know I work for Ardnahoe and Hunter Laing, but I'm a whiskey fan at heart, and this is a great time to be a whiskey fan. The choice is great, irrespective. It doesn't matter whether your wallet's £400 or £40. There's a really, really good whiskey out there for you. There's no doubt about it.
I do think you've ticked that on. Glen Scotia certainly one of my favourites. And after the festival, I was in the Lochfine whiskey shop, and they've got a 8-year-old, I think, single cask Glen Scotia on as their special. Yeah, Tawny Port. And I said,
was that the festival bottle in this year? Is it?
No, it's their own. It's a
Lochfine. All right. That's good to know.
So I had a wee sample of it, and I said to the guy, I'm going to, not quite paid it yet, but I'll get back in touch, and I haven't yet. So you just reminded me I need to get back in touch with him. It's one of my favourites, and I know Callum, who's watching, who was going to be my next question, was a regional favourite. And do you have a favourite Highland, Lowland, Speyside, Campbelltown, and Islay?
Oh, is this Callum Renton, is it?
Yeah.
Listen, hi Callum, I'm down at the Campbelltown Festival, so I'm going to be there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. If you're about, give me a shout. Highland, so Speyside, let's do Glenfarclas. Highland would technically be Arran, wouldn't it? I suppose. But other than the island distilleries, favourite Highland could be, I'm going to do a wee curveball here. Well, listen, forgive my ignorance here. What does Glenglasser come under? Highland or Speyside? Is it?
Highland. Well, we would call it Highland. I think for 2 weeks of a year, round about the Speyside Festival, it becomes a Speyside.
Speyside. So I might go Glenglasser, but if not, Glenwivis could be my shout for Highland.
Oh, yeah.
Lowland, I will go for Glasgow Distillery. Campbelltown, I'll go for Glen Scotia, and Isla, I've got to go for Ardnahoe, haven't I? So even if I took my bias apart, I would still go for Ardnahoe, I think. But which says a lot. So yeah, I think that's mine. And and I mean, just the island distilleries would be hard. No, Arran, a big fan of Letchik and Tobermory. So
Yeah.
Good question. Really good question.
But I would probably, at the moment, I mean, and I really love Torvaig. I think they're quite similar to you guys in that just the whole story and how they look and how the spirit character comes through. And I mean this as a compliment to both distilleries. When I'm talking about new distilleries, I always forget about Ardnahoe and Torvaig. And it's because it feels like you've been around forever. The spirit tastes like you've been around forever.
Yeah, that's good.
And the branding, I just think you've kind of caught that essence of it. You haven't tried to be too fancy with it. Some distilleries are trying to be too colourful or too out there, too garish.
It reminds me of a point, Mike, that when the distillery was getting built, and even when the distillery started running spirit in late 2018, if you go back to 2018, there was no Ardnamurchan on the shelves. There was no Torvaig. There was no Lindors. There was no Lochlee. There was just Wolfburn maybe had just been there. Sorry, what was the one?
Rassay. There would have been Rassay.
No Rassay. Glasgow was probably on the shelves in the 50 cl bottles.
Of course,
and the point I'm making, Kilhoman definitely was going. Yeah, it was Kilhoman definitely was going. But the point I'm making is when the distillery started making spirit, there was none of these fantastic young distilleries making 3, 4, and 5-year-old whiskies that were blowing people's minds. But when we came to release our 5-year-old, Ardnamurchan had released theirs. Glasgow was further down the line. Lindors had released theirs. Lochlee, Torvaig was reasonably well established with really good quality spirit. So by the time we came to release our inaugural in May 2024, the landscape of young whiskies had changed, and I was really confident that Ardnahoe would do well. But I remember in the kind of week or two before it thinking, the market's completely changed, the landscape's completely changed. What's on shelves and retailers for in terms of competition, we were no longer competing against Letchik or Talisker or Highland Park as kind of lightly peated or the other Isle distilleries. You're competing against Torvaig and a whole range of other ones that I've mentioned. So the landscape's changed massively, and for the better. For the better.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I think you did get your release at the right time not for just for whiskey enthusiasts, but we're just coming off that kind of COVID come down. We're still probably riding a bit of a crest of a wave of that, where people had that maybe we're kind of tightening the belts a little bit in terms of we're not getting furlough now. We're back to work, but the bug was still there. That FOMO was just still there. That
good point.
That inaugural release kind of bug was still there. So I think you probably caught it at the right time. And I know guys who've got that Aberargie, as good as it is, I've got cases still on the shelf because it's not that. And maybe you set a precedent there with that big batch that people are saying, we want this to be savoured and opened and not flipped and all that. So they're deliberately, releasing big batches.
And I think if you do that, you've got to be really confident in your product as well, because it's that old story. You only get one chance to make a first impression. So. No, if you make 72,000 bottles and it doesn't land well, there's only one inaugural. So I think it's a sign of companies like Aberargie and the Morrisons and Ardnahoe, the Laings and several others, that you're really confident in your product if you're able to do an inaugural release and do it in that scale. So yeah, I hadn't thought about that we've set a precedent. I don't know. I just think it makes good business sense, in terms of if you've got 70,000 bottles, you can create 70,000 fans. If you've only got 6,000 bottles, there's more people disappointed than there are becoming ambassadors for you.
Yeah, they'll just pick up the next new release, or they'll go for the next, and they'll think, well, when you release your core range, they're like, well, no, I'll stick to, I've got a new favourite now, or whatever. But I know Billy Walker, when Glenallachie 10 batch strength, batch 3 or 4, I think batch 4 won the World Whisky of the Year. And from that point up to batch 9, we, like you say, it was sold off the shelves. Came in, we didn't bother unpacking it. We didn't bother making shelf space for it because we knew overnight it was gone. So Billy was like, look, I'm getting pretty pissed off with this market of collecting. He said, I want people to drink the whiskey. So he almost tripled I think he went from 8,000 bottle batches to 19,000 bottles, so more than doubled it anyway. And then overnight, demand dropped, not for the liquid, but for that enthusiasm. We actually had bottles on the shelf that we could take off. We could open a bottle in a tasting and pour it and say, try this, here's the story, blah, blah, blah. Whereas you never got that before. It just, if you take away that rarity, take away the demand, you have a whiskey that, as you say, people can go back, you can enjoy it, they'll go back and buy another bottle and enjoy that. And that's how you create, a following of people enjoying your liquid. Yeah.
And I suppose it makes a difference that if you've already got established distribution worldwide, you can up your numbers, and we're fortunate, as I'm sure the Morrisons are with Aberargie, that us being a third generation family business effectively, then we've got relationships. Before the first Ardnahoe came out, we had distributors in countries saying we're really keen to stock Ardnahoe before they'd even tasted it. So all the kind of decades and years of work and relationships can help. So I think that's more difficult if you're a young independent bottler, that doesn't have the relationships and distribution networks. You've got to start from scratch from them. But I'm sure, I'm get my tongue firmly in my cheek here. I don't think Billy Walker's got any problems having a distribution network given his lengthy time in the business. And I think he's doing tons of work in China just now, actually, which is a great market to be in at this particular time.
Mm-hmm. You okay? Yeah. Sorry.
It's all right. Family life's got to go on.
Yeah, no, she lit a candle and walked out again. I'm like, I don't know hope she's not planning on burning the house down. We have Callum now for followers of the Blether. Callum asks this question more often than he doesn't. The question that you've just answered about your regional, and he's finally answered his own question. So he's saying Benromich for Speyside, Annandale for Lowlands, Glen Scotia, surprise. Ardnahoe, he said it used to be Buna, but it's Ardnahoe because you're on tonight. So next week it'll be Buna. He's saying the Highland is the hardest. Rassay, Torreveig, and Harris. So a big, big, big influence on young distilleries, new distilleries, Annandale, yourselves, Rassay, Torreveig, and Harris all getting a good equal sharing there.
I generally, I know the regulations are there's only 5 regions, but I think the islands should be separate. But good selection. And I think the oldest distillery in Bar Glen Scotia would be, obviously, but Annandale just 10 years old. Torreveig don't think's 10 years yet. We're only just over 7. So yeah, young distilleries, fantastic.
Well, what's your thoughts on regions nowadays? Do they have a place beyond marketing?
Sorry, you dipped out there, Mike. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. And what's your thoughts on regions? Do they have a place beyond marketing? Is there still classic flavors in region?
I don't know what the company policy is about it, but I don't think regions add any particular value anymore. I know people will argue otherwise for new regions, like Fife and what have you. Maybe places like Islay and Campbelltown have the most distinct flavour profile, but you get into Speyside now with over 50 distilleries. Some are making peated, some are making unpeated whiskies. You get into Lowland. Annandale does not taste like what we thought a lowland whiskey tasted like 20 years ago, light and floral. So I'm not convinced the regions help a great deal, to be perfectly honest. But that's my view. That's my view based on having visited, 60, 70 distilleries and probably tried whiskey from just about, if not all the distilleries in Scotland, but the vast majority. And I'm judging it on the flavour, the experience and everything else. I never judge it on the region that it comes from. So, no, I'm not convinced. But other people have different views and they can argue it equally well. No, the guy that introduced me to whiskey, actually, he's a big wine guy and he firmly believes in the wine regions and France and big Bordeaux man and all the rest of it. And he thinks if it's good enough for wine regions that have been making wine for hundreds of years, it's good enough for the Scotch whisky industry, So, but it doesn't really make a difference to me, if I was being perfectly honest.
Yeah. I think I'm in agreement with you there. It has its place, and it's good for newbies to learn in baby steps the guides or the classic flavors. But peated, Ben Omach, Ben Riach, and I think that's all again coming from a little bit of what are we missing out on? Why are we only producing light, floral, fruity Speyside? Because that appeals to most people. When there's people who love peat, and we can produce peat. We have peat on our doorstep. And there's that, and the same with Islay. It's like you mentioned possibility of an Ardnahoe unpeated. It's all about widening your audience. And if somebody says, "Well, I don't like peated," I'll try that Ardnahoe unpeated. Wow, that's really nice.
Yeah,
you've bought a fan, or you've not bought a fan, but you've gained a fan who will then maybe say, "Well, I want to visit a distillery, see what else they've got." Oh, it's not as peated as I thought it might be.
Yeah,
you open gateways.
Yeah, whenever I'm at a stand and somebody says, "What would you recommend to me?" I never ever say, "What region do you like?" I always say, "What type of flavours do you like?" And if they say they like this type of flavour, whether it's a whiskey flavour or whether it's the type of food that they like, I can normally find a whiskey to go from, and the regionality doesn't really make an influence. But no, I get it, and it helps for marketing and everything else. But your example's really good to know. You're getting more and more unpeated whiskies from Islay and more peated whiskies from Speyside. So they kind of typical flavours are just, I think, they're less relevant now than they've ever been since the current regulations come in.
No, I completely agree. I've just off the back of Callum's shout out for Annandale, poured the Spirit of Scotland, Gordon and MacPhail offering. We had 3 weeks ago, after missing last week, John Coombs from the distillery. So I had this looked out, and as you mentioned, or Callum mentioned, Annandale is another newbie. I thought, there we go. That's a nice segue into the last. It's one of the lightest cask strength whiskies.
I love some of these light coloured whiskies that you often, Khalil is a good example, you often get a feeling that it's light in colour, so there's going to be no flavour in it, but there'll be tons of flavour in that. And again, Annandale's a distillery that some of the independent bottlings I've had from it have been brilliant. We did our first independent bottling last year, a 10-year-old. I think we did a peated and an unpeated. I think one of the best Annandales I've had came from the Whisky Barrel, a 6-year-old. It was absolutely fantastic. So, and a great distillery to visit. I went there, I don't know, 5, 6 months ago. Really good visit, great food. Got a tour to myself because the car park was full, but everybody was in for the food. There was only one person wanting to do the tour, so I would recommend Annandale for a visit. That's for sure. Really well signposted now, going down the 74 as well.
Yeah,
So good
yeah.
luck
We
to
talked about
Annandale.
that the Blether with him. That it was yeah. He and they got the award for the best toilets as well.
To
So
get
yeah,
your
you need.
five to get your 5-star rating with the Scottish Tourist Board, toilets are very, very high up in their scoring system, I'm told.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, he got told. Yeah, so he was told on that blue and the brown signs saying the Annandale. I think because I think they do say distillery and coffee shop or
All
restaurant
right,
on
okay.
the sign. So we need to add a caveat onto that and great toilets as well. You you mentioned the color of Colila, and it's always been something that's played on my mind about Isla bottlings. Bunahaven's brown, Colila's brown, green, Ardbeg's brown, um, Brookladdy, Port Charlotte's brown. They've got the Tiffany blue kind of color for
Yeah.
you. You guys have gone clear. What was the thinking behind going clear as opposed to this kind of trend of maybe not hiding the color, but you know, that dark
Yeah,
malts?
it's a really good question, actually. I think historically, we used to have green bottles. If you go back to the original old malt cask bottles, they're green.
Yeah,
And when we did our 20th and 25th anniversary, we brought out the green bottles, but everything in between's been clear. I just think it's again traditional family, traditional decision making. We don't change things too often, so all our other ranges are in clear bottles. The exceptions being the anniversary bottles of the old malt cask, which is a wee bit kind of getting back to the history and heritage. So we just felt it was the right thing to do. And I'd love to say, no, we're as transparent as we can be. There's only so much you can get in a label. You can't get every bit of information that you want. But the one thing that makes that is very easy to determine the colour of your whiskey is doing two things: put it in a clear bottle and say that there's no added colouring. And they're two very, very easy things to do. So again, I'm not saying the other companies don't have a confidence, because some of the whiskies that you're speaking about there are some of my favourites and stuff that I've got behind me
yeah,
and would have no problem buying or recommending and drinking myself. But I think it's a sign of confidence as a brand new and young distillery that you're saying, here's our product and you can see the colour of it, and we're telling you it's non-chill filtered and it's natural colour. So yeah, it's a long answer to your question. I don't think there was much discussion about it. I think it was a kind of very, very
okay.
simple, easy decision to make. I don't know if there's a cost impact. I don't know if darker glass costs more or less. I've absolutely no idea, but I'm really pleased we've done it the way we have. I just like, as I said earlier, I never thought 30 years ago I'd be discussing bottles and what have you, but and I'm really pleased the way we've done it in terms of branding, and hopefully it lasts a long period of time. And hopefully we've not breached any trademarks for the Inverurie Whisky Shop either. It'll be we can just
Well,
share a similar brand, a similar
we'll,
logo.
we'll do a nice collab, and
Yeah, that'd be good.
I'll let it lie. I'm conscious of the time. I just want to go through a couple of the questions that people are asking. James has got a great question here. He says, "What will be the standout Ardnahoe whiskey 20 years from now?"
That's a brilliant question. I sometimes think it might be the ones we're drinking just now. No, and I don't say that in an unambitious way, but I often drink some of the whiskies we're having just now, and everybody says, "Oh, I can't wait till it's 8 and it's 10 and it's 12 and it's 15." And then the other side of me thinks, how can it get better than this? Because age isn't always a factor in things being better. No, older does not mean better. All the indications are that it is going to get better, but who knows? The team at Kilhoman are very much of the view, if I've understood them correctly, that 15 to 18 is a really key point for whiskey, because their thinking is that the angel shares reduced or increased, the spirit levels reduced, and there's more oxygen in the cask, more air and oxygen in the cask, and that does the magic that makes whiskies great at 15, 18. And I've got to say, there's a lot of whiskies that I like: Glenfarclas 15, Highland Park 15 or 18, Glenallachie 15. 15-year-old seems to be a sweet spot. So I suspect 15-year-old Ardnahoe might be really, really top notch. Who knows?
There you go. We'll see. We'll do this again in 20 years and
Yeah.
see how we get on. See if you were right. Right. Reb is saying 100 years ago he believes that clear bottles had a tax on them. Colour bottles had no tax. So a lot of Victorian bottles were green. A little bit of history there. Maybe
We'll have to research that. That's a really good point. I'm stealing that for a presentation in the future if that's good provenance. Brilliant point.
James has said there's nothing worse than trying to do a bottle kill when you can't see what's in the bottle. I completely get that. You think there's a little bit less, you pour it in the drams about this.
Yeah. And the weight of bottles are so different as well. No, like sometimes there's the bottle that you think there's lots in that, and it's the glass that actually you're feeling rather than the liquid.
Yeah. Was that a Finn Thompson bottle you had there?
No, that was the Ardnahoe as well. So
Finn Thompson, it's got that. It's similar shape, but it's a non-agon, I think. But the base it's like
really heavy. Yeah, really nice bottle. Yeah, they did some Colombian cask. Was it Glengarry? Colombian cask something. It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I tried a Rassy Colombian cask, which I'd never heard before, and then I was in the Green Welly and was telling the guy about it, and he says, "Oh, we've got some Colombian cask there," and it was a Finn Thompson. I'm sure it was a Glengarry. So these Colombian casks have got something special about them, and I see Deanston are doing an Andean cask, which I think is something similar. So I might go up to Deanston next week and have a try at that. So.
That sounds good. Not too far away from you, is it?
No, not bad.
Well, Paul, it's been absolutely fantastic. It's been great fun having you on. Loved your chat, loved your insights. The whiskey is incredible. Ardnahoe and the range of Hunter Laing. I think you guys are probably the epitome of many, or what many indie bottlers aspire to be. In just adding the wee distillery on the side, there is another feather in an incredible cap. The fact that we've got some legends watching us and having the chat with us as well.
Yeah.
David Stark popped in to say hello as well.
Oh, listen, I've learned so much from David over the years. As much as I think Old Malt Cask was my first independent bottling, it was his creative whiskies that really got me into independent bottling. So massive fan of David, and he mentioned at the Independent Festival at Leith to someone that he taught me everything I knew, and I think David's forgot far more than I've ever learned. So great guy, top guy.
Absolutely, and thanks to it. So David, his comment, evening folks, good to see a legend that is Paul Main on the Blether. Thoughts are with the entire Hunter Laing team after the passing of Stuart. So touch of class there.
David put a cracking post online that was very positive about Stuart and deprecating about himself. So lovely comment, David. So good to hear from David. You've got the great and the good in the audience here, Mike, I'll tell you.
We do.
Yeah.
But I never met Stuart, but I saw him every day because we, in the shop upstairs, we had a tasting room and we had a toilet. And the toilet I decorated with snippets and clippings from Whisky magazine over the years. And so the idea was that somebody went for a pee and they learned something about whiskey. They would read an article or a review or something. And I was, just as we're talking about funny stories with Stuart, it reminded me that about waist level, just to the left of the toilet, was a picture of Stuart. and he had this kind of really like humorous look on his face, and he was looking just off camera, so it looked like he was looking at the toilet. And so Russell, who worked with us, he's now Gordon McPhail. I don't know if you met him at the festival. They were pouring some incredible stuff. He brought it up to me. He goes, every time I go to that toilet, I feel like Stuart Laing is looking at me and judging me. I'll never forget it. But we've moved premises now, and unfortunately, the pictures are all gone. But yeah, whenever I think of Stuart, I think he's judging me while I'm having a pee in my own shop. David said he could tell us a funny story about the old Douglas Laing toilets if he wants.
Oh, I've not heard that one. Not heard that one. Lindock Street. So hear that another time.
Yeah. Well, we'll get David on the Blether again. We'll get you lined up for that.
Yeah.
Andrew from Little Brown Dog is raising a glass to Mr. Laing. He's saying, "Cheers, Paul. Good to see you." I never mentioned it, but one of my drams tonight was this guy. Just after the Ardnahoe. This is Ardnahoe cognac. This is a whiskey that actually led me to believe in the neck pour myth.
Oh, right. That's interesting.
Never believed it. And when I took my first dram of it, I tried the full range. I love Ardnahoe. I love Ardmore. You know, for the guys who are regular watchers will know how much I love the spirit, especially in Indy bottlings, cask. And this was probably I don't think I've told Andrew this if he's still watching. This is my least favorite of the range. I thought, I just not getting it. I'm not enjoying it. Went back to it 2 days ago, had another dram of it. And I thought,
right.
Completely different animal. And I'll back it. It's a really, really good dram.
The guys are doing good stuff, brilliant on social media, and it was actually there Glen Wivis I tried. I think they did a 4 or 5 year old from a port cask or something. It was just brilliant. Brilliant.
I think it might have been a cognac or
in fact, I'm wondering if it was Madeira. Actually, it was like 4 years and 1 day old, or 5 years and 1 day old, and I think it was the first ever Madeira or port cask. I'm trying to remember. I'll need to check through my notes, but what a job they did with that bottle. It was absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So I'll see the guys. We do the Independent Festival on Isla at Ramsey Hall on the Tuesday, so I'm sure Andrew will be there, and good to see what he's got on offer. Yeah. They've got some great whiskies. Yeah, doing brilliant. And we're privileged and lucky enough to have them on our doorstep as well. Aberdeenshire, that could be a region. East Highlands. I would love Aberdeenshire to be a region, but I think if we extend to East Highlands, we'll get Arbiki and Glencadam in there as well, which would just boost it a little bit. But, I mean, we've got 8 or 9 distilleries in there. Fantastic range of whiskies from big names like Glendronach to kind of wee gems, as you say, Glenglassaugh. It's a great region to be in. And lots of barley. Yeah, lots of barley and lots of peat. People forget that a lot of the peat comes from up where we are now. Reb says the only way to avoid the neck pour is to fill your first glass from an upside down bottle. I'm not sure if I'll get where I go just now, but maybe not live on screen. Paul, thank you so much for giving up your time. It's been a fantastic pleasure. Absolutely learned so much about whiskey in general. Some of your insights into Ardnahoe, Isla whiskey, peat. We've talked bottle design. We've talked single cask. It's been such an insight to whiskey. So thank you so much, and thank you to everyone else. Normally at this point, I would say, who's next? I have no idea. Just Cat does that side of things. Had I been more organized, I would know who's next week. But watch out. We'll do an early shout out on our socials. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Paul, thank you so much for coming on, answering all the questions.
and being a great asset to Ardnahoe.
Pleasure. Good luck, everyone, and all the best. Have a great weekend. And if I see you at Stirling, Campbelltown, Isla, come and say hello, and we'll clink a glass and share a dram.
Excellent. Cheers, now. Thank you,
Cheers,
everyone.
mate.
Good night.
Cheers.